My name is Jennifer LaManna. I teach 11th grade at Kemmer West High School.
And I'm Christine Dwyer, and I teach 11th grade special education co-taught at Kemmer West High School.
They are reading Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. Each lesson is definitely has a standard in mind.
It provides for a productive struggle for our students as well, because the standards have raised the learning, and because the modules are so closely aligned to the standards, it definitely allows for that productive struggle.
Today's lesson was focusing on writing standard 2B, which was about how to develop writing through choosing the most relevant and significant quotes, concrete details, and also about extended definitions.
What do we always say that textual evidence needs to be?
Explicit.
Needs to be explicit. Needs to be strong.
Thorough.
Needs to be thorough. So all of those adjectives describe textual evidence.
Writing 11, 12, 2B. So to examine and to convey. What does examine mean?
Analyze. To look.
To analyze, to look how? If you're examining something.
Very closely.
Closely at it, right? And to convey. We're conveying complex ideas. What does it mean to convey something?
To show.
Yeah, to show. To show, to express. And obviously we need to do this in what way? How do we need to convey this information?
Through organization. Effective selection. And organization.
Yeah, the effective selection and organization of the content. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today with B. So we're developing the topic, right? We're developing the topic by using what?
Significant and relevant facts.
Significant and relevant facts. Significant and relevant facts. What else do we need, Brianna? Extended definitions. Quotations.
Details.
Details. Concrete details. Good. All right. Tell me what it means to be significant. Important, right? So something that's significant is important. And Samantha, what does it mean to be relevant? We're looking for relevant.
That actually relates to what you're trying to figure out.
Yeah, that it relates to your topic. So this is what you're focusing on today, okay? Picking out the most significant and relevant text evidence to develop your topic. Let's say that we are writing a paper, and the question we're writing about is, what is the concept of double consciousness? What is Du Bois's concept of double consciousness? Okay? It's a pretty heavy concept, isn't it? And so an author might want to start off with an extended definition of double consciousness. The first thing you're going to be doing is looking back at chapter 1 of The Souls of Black Folk. We've read paragraphs 1 through 4. The first thing you're going to do with your group is try to write an extended definition of double consciousness. And when I started talking about double consciousness, hands shot up to tell me what it was. So you should be able to do this. Obviously, you're going to use the text to help you do this, right?
Self-consciousness, like when he says a world which yields him no true self-conscious, we said self-conscious is aware of oneself. He's saying he doesn't have that because he's only working with what everyone's saying about him, the views he's getting from everyone else, right? Yeah. So then when we read double consciousness and we had to talk about it yesterday, we said it's two perspectives in one mind.
So the sense of two perspectives in one mind, always looking at oneself through the eyes of others.
Good. We know that we may use extended definitions, right, as we are developing our topic. Authors might also use quotations. And remember, they need to be significant and relevant quotations. what you're going to do right now, remember, we're writing this paper about double consciousness. Look through paragraphs 1 through 4 to find some quotes that you think are most relevant to this topic of double consciousness. And you are going to highlight these.
I mean, it says right there that it says me in the other world, so. And then just explaining, like, it's unasked, the question's unasked. Did you read that one?
Where? Here?
Oh. The one where, with other black boys with the stripe. And then at the end of the sentence was like, or into silent hatred of the pale world about them and mocking distrust of everything white.
See if there's something in paragraph 4 that really
This longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. I think that's one. That's a good one.
So we went around. You all have some good quotes that you could support this topic with, right? So here's the next thing, concrete details.
So remember, guys, if you go back to the standard, we talked about there were things that you can include in your writing that would develop it even better. So we've already talked about extended definitions, which we labeled as number 1. We've talked about quotations, which we labeled as number 3. And now we're looking at concrete details, which we labeled as number 2. And we're going to take a look at what concrete details actually means. Okay?
So what do you think a concrete detail is? Think about that, right? What are we looking for, D'Angelo?
It's like a detail that you can't argue with because it says it.
Yeah, a detail that you can't argue it with. It's an example. And oftentimes, it's different from a quote because it might be like, it's an example, a concrete example, an explicit example that we can't argue with where we might find this idea of double consciousness. We talked about what's the difference between a quote and a concrete detail. Oftentimes, when you're writing, you won't necessarily quote it, but you'll paraphrase it. Does that help? So let's go back to our text, and let's try to find explicit, concrete details, examples that we could use when we're developing this topic of double consciousness.
I was thinking about the visiting card one with the little girl when they were exchanging visiting cards, and then the little girl wouldn't take it. So I think because it says right after that
It dawned upon him.
Yeah.
That
he was different. Yeah. So I think that was definitely one of the first times he
realized that he was different.
Yeah.
Look for these. So
it's like a little story.
Let's look for these concrete details. Times when he's feeling this way. Where shades of
And then what you were saying with like the two worlds. I think it's in the first paragraph.
Between me and the other world. It's
Yeah.
the first sentence.
Yeah.
He's basically saying that he knows that there's two different worlds.
And why did it dawn on him? What was the concrete detail there that it dawned on him?
Because he had to buy cards and he was refused.
She refused to take his card.
She refuses to take his card, right? And suddenly he realizes that he's different, right? Good. And now you're looking for, did you find any more?
The first sentence when it says between me and the other world, and then the other parts where it's talking about how they try to be delicate about it, and because they didn't want to clearly just state how does it feel to be the problem.
Where they're asking him questions all around that idea of what it feels to be a problem.
In class today, we did mostly group discussions talking about the double consciousness and the text by Du Bois, The Soul of Black Folk.
There was a central idea known as double consciousness, and we had to build a topic around that and use important and relevant information like author's craft to build up on that topic and be able to come up with our own discussion about it.
Well, we mainly learn about like writing skills and like analysis of like the like what you're reading, and you have to like go in depth and just make sure like you use those explicit textual evidence in order to make sure your writing is correct.
Our claim evidence and response and techniques and how we have to like focus on that with our like strong, thorough textual evidence and being able to support that with our reasons back to our claim. And so today we were focusing more towards extended definitions in our claim to like really draw in the reader.
I'm doing a project, and my person is W.E.B. Du Bois. So I think that since I'm learning in English, it can help me with my U.S. history class. So I think that without today's class, I probably wouldn't be able to write it.
They were able to write their extended definitions, they were able to find relevant quotes, and they were able to find the concrete details.
Writing instruction, we try to filter in throughout the different units of the modules.
I liked today's lesson because it was about choosing the most relevant pieces of evidence. We noticed in the last essays they wrote, they were choosing okay quotes, but we were reading Hamlet, and I could think of like, oh, we talked about this quote, they should have used that, they should use that, really picking out the best quotes. And then they struggle with developing that, explaining how those quotes support their claims, and that's one thing we've also been focusing on a lot.
I think we're also trying to focus now, especially in 11th grade, trying to help them create their voice and create a sense of tone within their writing, to not seem to be so formulaic a lot. Just kind of checking off the list of things that I've done. I've included this, I've done this, I've done this, but now using stronger vocabulary, we call sophisticated language, and creating that voice and looking at, well, how do these authors create their voice by using figurative language, metaphors, similes, and why don't you try to do that in your writing as well?